Prince George gets handed this ceremonial title. On the surface, it looks like one of those lovely little royal moments. The palace puts out the polished statement. The photos are perfect. Everyone nods along because of course the future king gets the honor. But behind that entire performance, Queen Camilla reportedly completely fell apart. And here's the part that makes it genuinely interesting rather than just sad. She wasn't upset because she disliked Prince George. She wasn't bitter because she thought a child didn't deserve recognition. She was shattered because this specific title, this exact ceremonial honor, was the one she had spent years quietly believing could one day go to her own grandson, Freddy Parker Bowles. And the way she found out? She found out through the official press release. The same announcement the public got. No private conversation with her husband. No quiet heads-up from the palace machinery she'd spent years serving. She opened the announcement like everyone else and received the message loud and clear. You can wear the crown, Camilla, but your family is still not one of us. You genuinely cannot understand why this hit Camilla so hard without understanding what she'd been building for years. Camilla didn't exactly walk into the royal family with a clean slate. Far from it. She walked in as the woman blamed for tearing apart a marriage the whole world had been watching. Reporters didn't stop at calling her the other woman. They started calling her the Homewrecker Queen. A nickname designed to reduce her entire existence to one ugly scandal. That name followed her for more than 10 years. Even after she went from mistress to wife, from the woman the public despised to the woman the palace finally agreed to tolerate, that name never completely died. By the time she became queen consort, her marriage to Charles was no longer up for debate. Nobody could challenge her right to stand beside him anymore. But becoming queen didn't suddenly kill her hunger for acceptance. If anything, it simply changed what she wanted accepted next. Not herself this time. Her bloodline. Camilla has 2 children from her first marriage to Andrew Parker Bowles. Tom Parker Bowles and Laura Lopez. Neither one carried a title. Neither one worked for the firm. The palace had a very simple word for both of them: civilians. Sure, they were loved at Christmas and welcomed into family photographs. But when it came to actually counting as royal? Absolutely not. And that was not something Camilla was willing to just swallow forever. To her, Tom Parker Bowles, Laura Lopez, and their children were her bloodline, her legacy. And she wasn't done fighting for them. So, she started building quietly. Carefully. Nothing dramatic enough to draw fire, not yet. It started with invitations. Suddenly, her family began showing up at royal events they'd never been invited to before. Then came the photographs. Carefully staged and carefully timed. Her grandson Freddy Parker Bowles started appearing more and more, sitting closer to the family, getting closer to that royal frame. People inside Camilla's own circle weren't stupid. They saw exactly what she was doing. They believed she was grooming Freddy Parker Bowles into the acceptable face of her family. Someone charming enough, polished enough, royal-looking enough to finally bridge that stubborn gap between her world and theirs. She was clever about it, too. She never once marched in and demanded a title outright. That would have been far too obvious. She let the photographs speak. She let Freddy Parker Bowles' presence do the talking for her again and again and again until the message became almost impossible to miss. My family belongs here, too. And they can serve this monarchy, not just stand beside it. One year, during the royal family's traditional Christmas walk to church, Camilla made her boldest move yet. She arranged for Freddy Parker Bowles to stand directly behind Prince George and the rest of the next generation. Right where every camera would catch him standing shoulder to shoulder with the future of the monarchy. One photograph like that, printed everywhere, and the message would practically write itself. But a senior courtier spotted what was happening before a single shutter clicked. Freddy Parker Bowles was immediately pulled out of line and shoved all the way to the back next to household staff. Just seconds before the photographer started shooting. And the wildest part? Camilla watched every second of that humiliation from across the courtyard. Her own grandson had been positioned beside the future of the monarchy, then physically removed and pushed to the back like someone had suddenly remembered he didn't belong there. And she couldn't do a thing. What was she supposed to do in the middle of a royal Christmas gathering? Cause a scene? Demand they put him back? She said nothing. She stood there and watched it happen in front of everyone. According to the aide who witnessed it, this was about belonging. Camilla knew exactly what people still called her behind closed doors. She knew that no matter how many decades she survived inside that family, some people would always see her as the outsider queen who somehow got through the palace gates. Pulling her own bloodline into the monarchy's future was her chance to finally rewrite that story. Once her family was inside too, nobody could treat her like some temporary outsider ever again. But that Christmas morning exposed something Camilla still wasn't ready to admit. The palace had already made its decision about her family. Nobody had bothered to sit her down and say it to her face yet. They didn't need to. Watching Freddy Parker Bowles get pulled out of that line said plenty. To understand why Prince William and Catherine held the line so hard, you have to understand their entire philosophy about where this monarchy was going next. To the public, Prince William and Catherine looked like the modern royal couple. Warm, relatable, easy to like. But behind palace doors, people close to them said their real plan was far more calculated than anyone realized. From the moment Prince William stepped into a senior royal role, he followed one rule and never broke it: protect the bloodline. And honestly, this wasn't about pride or some royal arrogance. He wanted to kill the confusion before it even started. Who actually counted as royal and who didn't? An insider put it plainly: Prince William understood something basic. The monarchy only survives if the public sees the line as clean and direct. Blood matters. And if blood matters, then titles have to prove it. That was exactly where the quiet war with Camilla began. Camilla wanted a blended family tree, one where her Parker Bowles grandchildren and her civilian children eventually got folded into the royal picture. Prince William and Catherine wanted the complete opposite. Only direct Windsor blood gets a title. Prince William, as the future king, wanted a leaner monarchy. Fewer working royals. Clearer roles. And absolutely zero honors handed out just because someone happened to marry into the family. So when Camilla started floating title ideas for her grandchildren, here's where it got almost embarrassing. Prince William didn't even argue with her. He went completely silent. And that silence wasn't hesitation. It wasn't caution. It was calculated. Years earlier, Camilla had already won a smaller victory. She managed to get Tom Parker Bowles and Laura Lopez greater prominence at a state event. And what did she do the second she got that win? She reportedly leaked the details to a friendly royal reporter within weeks, spinning the whole thing publicly as proof that the family was finally embracing her children. The palace was blindsided. They had to scramble out an emergency statement just to walk the whole thing back. Prince William never forgot that mess. To him, it proved exactly what would happen if he gave Camilla even an inch on Freddy Parker Bowles. It wouldn't stay private. It would be splashed across the papers within a month, dressed up as progress, and then dragged back out as ammunition for her next demand. So, this time his answer wasn't even a firm no. It was total silence. Because even responding to her would have handed her something to grab onto. Catherine wasn't just sitting somewhere quietly feeling uncomfortable about all of this either. She got involved directly. When the palace was choosing photos for the annual Christmas card, Catherine personally stepped in and asked for Freddy Parker Bowles to be cropped out of the final picture. Not because of who he was as a person, but because his face sitting next to Prince George, Charlotte, and Louis would have quietly suggested a status he simply did not have. She reportedly told an aide she wasn't about to let one single photograph undo years of careful work deciding exactly who counted as a real working royal. Then came the moment Camilla truly understood just how far she'd fallen. Right after Charles's coronation, she requested a private one-on-one meeting with Prince William. Think about that. This was something she never even had to ask for with Charles, because Charles always came looking for her first. But Prince William's office scheduled her meeting 3 weeks out. And then, as if that wasn't humiliating enough, they quietly folded it into a group briefing packed with other senior staff instead. She never got her private audience. Not once. And that was the exact moment it hit her. Whatever special access she used to have was already gone. So, for years, Camilla kept pushing. And for years, she kept getting resistance. Until eventually, she wasn't even getting that anymore. She was getting nothing. A former aide said Prince William never needed to argue his case out loud. He simply let the stillness answer for him. When Prince George was finally handed the ceremonial title reserved only for future kings, the very title Camilla had spent years hoping would somehow go to Freddy Parker Bowles instead, this wasn't just some announcement. This was the answer. Loud, public, and impossible to twist. It told everyone exactly who the monarchy's future belonged to. The Windsors. Not the Parker Bowles line. Staff said Prince William knew precisely how Camilla would react when she heard the news. And he made zero effort to soften that blow. None. He believed it was better to be brutally direct now than keep stringing her along with false hope for another year. A source close to the family said it best, Prince William wasn't cruel. He simply wasn't sentimental, especially when it came to protecting the crown. So, while the world outside celebrated Prince George stepping into his new role, Camilla sat inside the royal residence in tears. And this wasn't only about Prince George getting the title. That was the part that really hurt. It was about her own grandson being told, without anyone having to say a single word to his face, that he never stood a chance. Prince William had made his position painfully clear: blood over blended family. Legacy over sentiment. And the monarchy's future was never going to be shared. Right in the middle of this entire mess stood Charles. Trapped between the woman he loved and the son who would one day take his place. Publicly, Charles gets painted as the calm one, the steady hand, the man holding everything together after years of royal chaos. But privately, he was about to make a choice that exposed something far darker. A choice that proved Charles might wear the crown right now, but Prince William controls the future. And apparently, that future has absolutely no room in it for the Parker Bowles family. For years, Camilla leaned on Charles to help push her family forward. She never stormed into a room demanding anything outright. She expressed her wishes quietly. Hopes really. Maybe a title for Freddy Parker Bowles one day. Some kind of formal recognition that her grandchildren actually belong close to this family. And Charles, ever the diplomat, always had the perfect little answer waiting: we'll find the right moment. He told her that more than once. Well, then the actual moment arrived. The real decision on whether that ceremonial title would finally go to Freddy Parker Bowles. And suddenly, Charles was standing at a brutal crossroads. Give Freddy Parker Bowles the title and risk an all-out war with Prince William. Or hand it to his own heir and completely shatter his wife. In the end, Charles chose the crown. Because honestly, when it really comes down to it, he always does. Sources say he hesitated first, though. He didn't just roll over immediately. Charles reportedly proposed a real compromise. He suggested reviving an old dormant honorific, one last used generations ago for a distant relative who was never even in line for the throne. No land attached to it. No income. No claim to succession. Nothing. Freddy Parker Bowles would simply get to carry a royal-sounding style at official events without touching the actual peerage system at all. Charles practically built the thing so Prince William could say yes without surrendering a single thing that actually mattered. Prince William said no anyway. He saw it as something that could quietly poison the image of the royal bloodline for generations if he allowed it through even once. And Charles, a man who had spent his entire reign fighting to keep this modern monarchy stable, finally caved. Charles called in his private secretary and told him to draft the announcement naming Prince George as the one receiving the ceremonial title. The same title Camilla had spent years hoping would go to Freddy Parker Bowles. Then, completely unprompted, he added one more instruction: make sure Freddy Parker Bowles' name or any mention of an alternative title never appears anywhere in the briefing materials. Camilla wasn't told any of this was happening. She didn't even know a draft existed. A palace insider later confirmed, Charles simply didn't want to fight his son. He understood that defying Prince William would mean declaring war inside his own household. Father against son. King against future king. And when the choice finally landed in front of him, Charles wasn't willing to go there. The event itself was supposed to be small. To the public, it looked like a charming little glimpse into Prince George's future. To the palace, it was a clean media win during a rough stretch. But to Camilla, it was devastating. After decades of loyal service to this family, decades of keeping her mouth shut and playing by their rules, she got zero warning. She found out through the official press release. The exact same way everybody else did. An insider said, Camilla saw Prince George's name sitting there in that announcement and simply froze on the spot. To everyone watching from outside, it looked perfectly normal. Of course, Prince George got it. He is the future king. But to Camilla, that one announcement confirmed everything she'd quietly feared for months. Her family would always come second. Always. That night, behind closed doors at Clarence's house, the carefully composed Camilla everyone had watched for decades finally disappeared. She broke down completely. An eyewitness said she held the printed announcement in her hands and said, "They have erased us. After everything, they have erased us." And this wasn't just sadness anymore. This was outrage. Betrayal. A grief so deep that apparently not even the crown she'd fought so hard to reach could cover it. One courtier described the mood inside the palace that evening as tense, almost surreal. You could feel it everywhere. You could hear it in the silence. Charles reportedly tried to comfort her. Out came the soft, clearly rehearsed explanations about tradition, public expectation, royal strategy. All the usual palace language people reach for when they've already made the decision and now need you to accept it. But Camilla wasn't having any of it. Overcome, she looked at her husband and said it straight to his face. "You let them humiliate me." And that's when the whole thing became even uglier. Because suddenly this wasn't a betrayal from Prince William anymore. Prince William had never promised her anything. This was a betrayal from her own husband. For a woman who had stood beside Charles through decades of scrutiny, media attacks, and outright rejection from his own family, this felt like a knife coming from the one person who was supposed to protect her. She had survived all of that beside him. And when she finally needed him to stand beside her, this was what she got. She reportedly looked him dead in the eye and asked, "Did you even try?" Charles was reportedly sorry. But he wasn't apologetic. And there's a huge difference. He genuinely believed he'd made the right call for the institution, for the crown, for history itself. This story was never really about a title. Or a ceremony. Or even Prince George. It was about belonging. It was about whether someone who marries into the royal family can ever truly be considered family. Camilla spent decades fighting for acceptance. She survived the public hatred. She survived the media attacks. She survived the nickname, Homewrecker Queen, that followed her for over a decade. But none of that prepared her for this. Watching her own grandson be pushed to the back. Watching her own bloodline be erased from the royal picture. Watching her husband choose the crown over her. In the end, Camilla learned a painful lesson that no amount of patience could change. You can wear the crown. You can stand beside the king. You can serve the institution for decades. But your family will still not be one of them. The Parker Bowles line will never be royal. Not really. Not where it counts. And that's the part that broke her. Subscribe to Royal Finance for more royal investigations. Drop your thoughts below. Was Charles right to choose the crown over Camilla? I read every single comment. See you in the next one.